All right, thank you for the honor on the podium. Thank you for the introduction. Let's get started. These are our disclosures. All right, given that we're at stages, we know that surgical education is at a point where it necessitates, needs innovation. Serious games can help. These games can be engaging, they can encourage deliberate practice, provide instant feedback, high fidelity scoring, and a large bank of scenarios. And especially importantly, they can focus on surgical safety. At our institution, we created one such game called LapBot. LapBot, when you first download, you go to sort of get the screen on the left, and this is a game that provides surgeons or players, really anyone, medical students, residents, fellows, with instant feedback on where they choose to dissect during laparoscopic cholecystectomy. The game itself is powered by an artificial intelligence platform called Go/No-Go-Net, which overlays regions of safe and unsafe areas of dissection, or go and no-go zones, onto videos of laparoscopic cholecystectomy to provide surgeons with that guidance. The purpose of our study, therefore, was to assess the validity of this novel, free, interactive mobile game application and see whether or not it can actually teach safe dissection during lap choles. So when we sort of recruited surgeons and fellows and medical students through an invitation and sort of snowball technique, and when they download and register themselves on the app, this is the sort of the screen that they get. When they click on the level, they're prompted with a surgical video, a scene of a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, and they're asked where they would like to dissect during that video. If they choose incorrectly, they get a failure screen like the one shown here, and they're re-prompted again with a different laparoscopic cholecystectomy video, and again asked where they'd like to dissect. If they choose correctly, they get a sort of a success screen with a sort of a score, and again, I'll remind you that the score is sort of calculated in the background through this AI algorithm. Once they win a surgical scene, they do that 5 times in a row, they win that level. And when they win 5 levels in a row with each level corresponding to a Parkland score, so of increasing gallbladder difficulty, they win the game. And if they score high enough within that game, they show up on the leaderboard. We collected lots of different things throughout this process. We collected participant demographics, average scores, game level, surgical experience, gaming experience, and qualitative feedback. And we sort of analyzed each of these with respect to each other. In terms of demographics, we had a lot of participants. It was publicly available, so we had 903 participants across all levels of surgical training, all across the world. 64 countries, all 6 continents were represented in our data set. When we looked at scores as a function of level, as expected, as the level increased, the scores decreased with increasing gallbladder difficulty. Similarly, player confidence decreased. So in the beginning, players were a bit more confident in where they were choosing to dissect, but over time, as the gallbladder difficulty increased, their confidence decreased. When we looked at score as a function of training, the more trained you were, PGY5 fellows, faculty, the higher scores you had relative to medical students like myself who had lower scores. When we looked at variability, this is important. When we looked at variability in people's scores as a function of level, the variability decreased as level increased, suggesting that 1, maybe that they were becoming more consistent in their responses, and 2, maybe that they were learning. Experience with laparoscopic cholecystectomy, so surgical experience, was independently and positively correlated with participant scores, and importantly, there was no relationship between scores and gaming experience. We collected a lot of different feedback, like I said, within the game, after the game. And in 3-month follow-up, we found that 65% to almost 2/3 of individuals agreed that LapBot should be incorporated into surgical training programs. And about half, or just over half, agreed that this helped them reflect on the coaching feedback provided to them, or when they're observing lap choles performed by other folks. So in conclusion, LapBot can distinguish between levels of surgical expertise, underscoring its ability to reflect real-world scenarios. LapBot can be engaging. It can be a high-fidelity educational tool for deliberate practice in low-risk environments, and especially sort of removing that cognitive load from educators in high-volume surgical centers to artificial intelligence. Next step, therefore, is 1, to increase the number and types of surgeries within LapBot, and 2, to translate it into the clinical environment, into surgical curricula, see if it helps. Thank you for your time. Just a funding acknowledgement for SAGES for graciously funding our award as part of the Foundation 2023 Research Grant Award. And if you want to download, you can still download it today. It's on iOS. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do it on in time for the conference on Google Play, but we will do that soon as well. Thank you.